Hello, and welcome to Rolling Out Star Studios for Sisters with Superpowers. My name is Portia Monique, and today I'll be your host. We have the pleasure of speaking with Ashayla Shanae, expert celebrity vocal coach, performance pedagogy, and voice monetization coach. She has over 20 years experience in this field, and she provides voice care with voice confidence building, vocal instructor certification, and voice monetization methods. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I want to get right into who you are, how you got to where you are, and why is something like this needed in an industry.
Absolutely.
So let's briefly talk about your beginnings.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I tell people now I am the person they never knew they needed, right? And so how I even got started was I started in the music industry. I started out as a professional touring background singer. My first gig ever was with an artist that was newly signed to Universal, the label. And so as a result of that, in my touring, I also was a substitute teacher. What happened is once I became a teacher, I ended up having vocal damage called vocal nodules that came on my vocal cords. And as a substitute teacher, I had no health insurance. I had no money. Okay. The truth of the matter is, substitute teachers don't really get paid a lot. And I was living paycheck to paycheck and gig to gig. Okay. So that's the truth. I went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, told him, listen, I haven't been able to speak nor sing in the past 6 weeks. And I remember I went through 2 months, had no voice, went into a deep state of depression. And I said, listen, I have the opportunity to tour on the road. I have an opportunity to now really launch my professional career in this industry. What do I do? I have no money. And so once they told me the cost, and I said, listen, I don't have that. I had to take my degree. I have a background in music education as well as music business, and a concentration also in pedagogy and music education. I took that. I started finding holistic ways and how to heal myself, heal my voice, holistically through diet and nutrition practices, proper health practices, and proper vocal utilization practices. And then I started just asking questions. I started sitting at the feet of ENTs, ear, nose, and throat doctors, a couple of my speech language pathologist friends, and I was able to literally heal my own self from vocal nodules, which are like bumps that grow on your vocal cords. And really and truly, it didn't happen overnight, but gradually, as I started healing and my voice started coming back, and I did not tell the label what was going on with me because I did not want to lose that coin.
Right.
But the word started getting around, that wait, like she's gotten this thing, this blueprint of how to really heal voices. And so I started to work with the artists I was on the road with, and then the word started to spread amongst the singers, and then next thing you know, I had all these people coming to me asking for vocal advice. And that's how I launched my first aspect of my business called the Gifted Voice Studios. And then as I started to grow more, I realized that a lot of creatives, we're melancholic by nature. So we carry spurts of creativity followed by spurts of depression and anxiety, right? And then we go to negative coping mechanisms like drugs and alcohol and things like that. And so what I realized is that I would have people coming to me, wanting to get advice. But then they also were dealing with emotional and mental health issues. So as a result of that, I started to incorporate purpose coaching and life transformational coaching with my vocals because it's all interconnected. The voice is connected to the soul, right? To the mind. And so because of that, I pivoted my company from the Gifted Voice Studios to the Music and Arts Healing Institute. I went ahead and I opened up my first actual brick and mortar. I had 4 Costco chairs, a flip phone, a piano that I still use to this day that's over 20 years old. I will have it until it's just out and it can't do anything.
Right.
MySpace was around, and that's when I was like, yo, I'm open for business, and started my business with $500 to my name. And then from there, just fast forward now, my company has pivoted even more to now what we call Vocal Wall Street, because it went from just solving my own problems to helping others solve their vocal problems, to helping others learn how to thrive vocally, emotionally, and mentally, to helping others thrive vocally, emotionally, mentally, and financially. right? So it's been a thing. And so I love the journey of being able to not only just solve my own problem and fill my own need, but now being able to do the same thing for edutainers, educators, commentators, athletes, speakers, singers, right?
Yeah.
Anyone that wants to use their voice and turn it into a health and wealth generating asset.
Mhm.
This is where I'm at from conception of that to where we are today. So that's a little backstory.
And all I can say is wow, right? So what an incredible story. It sounds like it was definitely divine order. It sounds like you had to go through what you went through to
Yeah.
develop and refine your own gift. So amazing testimony. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you're not an ENT doctor. However, I do want to ask you, because you've done so much research on this, what causes the nodules on your throat?
Absolutely. So there are a couple things, right? A couple of variables. First things first is maladaptive behavior, which means bad habits. You know,
Mhm.
lots of times, a lot of the damage that we do on our vocal cords, especially like, let's say for yourself as a host or a commentator or a broadcaster, right? Lots
Mhm.
of times, a lot of the things you do off stage, like too much alcohol consumption, not having enough water, right? Intake in your body, eating high acid foods, mucus enhancing foods, or
Mhm.
just overstraining the voice, not properly using proper breath support, right? Or things like if you are hookah in or smoking or anything, maladaptive behaviors are a big one. And then just lack of education and know-how. Not
Yeah.
because we have the voice means that we just do it, use it any kind of way. So we
Right.
still have to learn how to manage the voice by making sure that we can support it with proper techniques such as diction, phrasing, breathing. And so, one of the biggest reasons why people end up having vocal issues is because of non performance, non stage habits,
Mhm.
right? That they just never think about. And then, of course, on top of that, outside of diet and nutrition, outside of bad behavior, bad habits, we also tie in the mental and emotional aspects of it too, that can
Mhm.
literally cause real life dysfunction in the vocal cords as well.
Yeah. And what were some of the prescriptive things that you had to do that didn't involve changing food and some of the bad habits that you did to heal yourself?
Yeah, and it's the very same thing that I teach a lot of people today. Like, for example, I'll give you a prime example. I had a young lady that came into my office, right? She was dealing with severe hoarseness, is what we call dysphonia. That's the medical term for hoarseness, right?
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
was dealing with muscle tension dysphonia, which is hoarseness or loss of voice or raspiness of voice due to the fact that she was dealing with a lot of tension and stress. Well, come to find out, she was dealing internally with a lot of anger and rage and bitterness. And it was literally keeping her body tense all the time. So we had to do things like something called SOVT exercises, right? Which
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
it's a fancy word to say semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, which is a diagnosis that we would give or a practical that we would give to people to learn to relax the voice, right?
Mhm.
Everything is not done by medication. Now, there are some things, for example, if you're dealing with like acid reflux that deals with what we call acid reflux in the throat, which is called LPR, laryngeal pharyngeal reflux, then we would need things like an antacid, right? And things like that. But there's sometimes when you just need to go sit on somebody's couch and do therapy. There's
Mhm.
sometimes where you just need to go and get a massage, all
Mhm.
right, de-stress, learn how to have anger management. um, You'd be surprised how all these things are connected in addition to sometimes having to take medication like steroids to bring down inflammation and acids to reduce acid reflux and things like that. So these are just some of the things, right? But because there's so many variables, there's not just one answer to that. Do you
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you guys may be wondering how well adept Shayla is at knowing all of these things. It's because she's a mental health advocate for the creatives, and she's also a founder of the visionary of Love Struck Incorporated, which is a 501c3 organization. They provide resources, community events, and awareness. Tell us more about that, and then let's jump into the importance of mental health, especially in an industry such as the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. So I am a creative. All right. And any creative, whether you're in performing arts or anything like that, if you are a visionary, if you are a thought leader, if you love to bring up ideas, you are a creative. And one of the things I've learned about us as creatives is that we carry our emotions on our sleeve. And if our mental health is off, everything else, our professional life goes off, our creativity, our imagination, and the highest level of your imagination is creativity. So what was happening, Portia, is that I would have people come into my office high on Percocets, high on cocaine, high on sleeping pills. I had one client come into my office literally high on cocaine and sleeping pills. And I realized, wait a minute, hold on. Before I could even talk about correcting your voice, let's just correct your mind, your mental. And so I had to end up putting suicidal ideation pamphlets in my office. Because I found myself having to have conversations with people that were dealing. I mean, I'm talking about the most talented of people. And we've seen it in Hollywood. We've seen it in the music industry. We've seen it in the speaker world where people are super intelligent. They're super talented. They're great, brilliant, but they're bipolar. They're dealing with suicidal ideation. They're dealing with psychosis. They're dealing with high functioning anxiety. They're dealing with perfectly hidden depression. And so the reason why I came into mental health advocacy and why I built Lovestruck was because I felt like creatives needed to be heard, and creatives needed to be in a place where they can take the cape of who what they do off, and so we can get to who they be, because we are human beings, not human doings. And there is anything that the pandemic taught us is that we had to sit our tails down from doing to finally find out who we be. And what we find out is a lot of us don't know who we are. 1 out of 4 people don't know their reason for being on this earth. And I realized that we as creatives, we should never be broke. We should never say that we are tapped out of things. And that's the reason why I created Lovestruck, because I wanted a platform where we can speak the language of the creative and combine different avenues from inspiration, spiritual empowerment, to the science of psychotherapy, and even bringing in creativity, community, accountability in those areas as well.
Yes. And thank you so much for that, and being a resource for everyone out there who needs something like that. It's definitely a brilliant thing. And before we move on, I just want to give people the opportunity to find out where to follow you, where to get in contact with the visionary of Lovestruck Incorporated, and find out more information.
Yes, so you can go to www.lovestruckinc.org. Definitely, if you would love to learn how to partner or just want to know more about just advocacy resources. We also have the Lovestruck Movement at the Lovestruck Movement Inc. movement on Instagram. And then for myself personally, connecting with me, I'm on all platforms and social media at Ashayla Shanae, ASHAALASHANAE.
And we'll, of course, revisit that towards the end of the interview. But I wanted people who were checked in right now, if they had a need to find out some more information, to be able to know exactly where to find that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Lovestruck Inc. is a combination, and we've had over 100 volunteer team members, from psychotherapists, volunteer psychotherapists, to, and we call them safe space counselors, because some people, there's this whole, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, about just the debunking the myths and the stigma, especially in the Black community, about mental health, right? And so we use the term safe space counselors, so kind of like give a little buffer so that people don't think, well, I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? No, that's not what it means. It just means that you have a place to declutter, and you have the professionals that are there to interpret the language that you sometimes can't speak for your own self, right? And so we have a plethora of people that come on our team and volunteer every single year to be a part of this movement, because they themselves have seen the transformation in their own lives. And that's what we provide.
And let's just go there before we move on, because I do want to get into talking about your career, your singing career, the type of people that you help. You're a mentor at Grammy U. However, but let's just go there and kind of debunk some of those myths. What are some of the most common, and how do we debunk them?
Yeah, so some of the most common myths, I would say the 3 of them that I'll talk about really quickly is, number 1, I'm not crazy, so I don't need to go see anybody. Okay, and that is probably one of the most
exactly. I'm not crazy, so I don't need to go see nobody. But go ahead.
Listen to me, okay? That is probably one of the most misguided, intentional, ignorant statements ever.
Right.
All right. But it falls into number two, it becomes a generational thing. Right. So you have people like baby boomers, like my mom's age, who they don't go to therapy. They never did that. They figured it out. Then you had their parents that were the golden age. They didn't talk about anything. They just kept it moving. And so what we find is we've had generational things going down the line, but now when you get to millennials and you get to now this new generation, we're all about coming into learning and finding ourselves, but there's a whole gap of generations that are still existing that don't believe that therapy is it. And so therefore, sometimes that mindset comes from cultural upbringing. It comes from just familial upbringing, and then it leads to the third thing, which is the social economic aspect of it, which is I can't afford it. So if I can't afford it, then I'm gonna just have to deal with how I want to. And this was another reason why we started Love Struck, because we did not want to charge people for their healing. So what we did is we said, no, since we're gonna make sure that you literally debunk that. You have no excuse to say you cannot come and get help. So at Love Struck, we do what we call a night of hope and healing, where we combine, because let's face it, the Black community or the minority community, if you want to say Black and brown community, our faith is very big. It doesn't matter if you're Baptist, Pentecostal, faith and community goes hand in hand. And so we wanted to say, how can we get the faith community, but then how can we get the psychotherapy community to come together and integrate? And all of the vendors are all therapists. So tables for people that deal with mental marriage and family therapy. We have substance abuse, we have trauma, we have PTSD, we have maternal mental health, right? We have all of these different areas because we want to make sure by the time they leave the events that we have, that they have bags full of resources that they can actually go and get the help that they would need. So the three areas really are the own personal thing of I'm not crazy, I don't need to get it. The second, the generational and the cultural upbringing, right? And then third, the social economic when it comes to the financial aspects of it. That's the three common things that I've seen. All right. I'm sure there's a plethora of others, but these are the three most common, I would say, objections that people have when it comes to therapy and mental health.
Well, thank you so much for debunking those. We definitely need those resources. You can go to Visionary of Love Struck for more information. And you guys can see that Ashayla is definitely well versed in this area. So thank you again for standing up and being a voice for mental health, especially in the entertainment industry.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And, for me, I myself, I just need to just have a very vulnerable moment. I see a therapist every 2 weeks. Okay, because when you have an assignment on your life to serve people, you have to be the first student. You have to be the first client. You have to be the first participant. And whenever you're a visionary of anything, and I just want to talk to those that are watching this really quickly, if you are a visionary of anything, you're going to always be tested in that area that you're called to. So because I'm a visionary of a mental health advocacy initiative, we are always going to be tested in that area. So I myself have dealt with bouts of anxiety, bouts of PTSD due to loss and grief, especially during 2020. I lost my dad. I lost my godmother, Betty Wright, the legendary Betty Wright. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. I know what it is to have loss. I lost two Love Struck members that were advocates as well. I lost 7 friends. I mean, it was a very tough time. So I don't want to leave myself out of this and say, no, I understand. Not only that, my family has a history of mental health challenges. So because of that, I'm very engulfed in it as to why I do what I've done. So thank you so much for allowing me to share on that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your vulnerability in sharing that. So we definitely appreciate that. Now, so before we go on to how you help people use their voice to make 6 and 7 figures and how you help people heal and all of that, I also wanted to talk about your TEDx experience, right? So you're a TEDx speaker. We were talking backstage and you said you were on your way to
Yes. So I have partnered with, it's amazing how the door has opened up for me, my company, Vocal Wall Street, to work with athlete speakers and
Mhm.
athlete performers. So I have partnered with a conglomerate that are NFL players, active and retired, who are now using their influence, using their voice to speak on topics like leadership, right? Overcoming adversity, transition beyond the field or beyond the court. And so I've partnered with I Am Nation, and we're getting ready to do a South Africa tour
Mhm.
in June, partnered with TEDx South Africa and a couple other amazing brands. And we're going to be traveling to 3 areas in South Africa: Botswana,
Ooh.
I don't want to say the wrong names because some of the names are a little bit complicated, but I'm
Mhm.
super excited. We're going to be doing an 11-day tour, and we're going to be taking our platforms throughout South Africa, and that's coming up. So I'm super, super excited. And I'm one of the headliners for the actual TEDx experience. I'm really excited about that.
Wonderful. And that's definitely something to be excited about. So congratulations on that. Now I know we're kind of running short on time, but we have a lot to get through. So I'll move to Grammy U mentored. So you are a Grammy U mentor. What does that mean? And tell us about that whole Grammy process. Like, how does that work? So tell us first about you being a Grammy U mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give a shout out to my godmother, the late Betty Wright. She actually sat as one of the heads, the presidents or overseer of the Miami chapter of the Grammys.
Wow.
And with the Grammys, you have to be recommended in. You just can't get into becoming a voting member. So someone that's already in the Grammys or in a part of the Recording Academy has to recommend you.
Mhm.
And there's a process to go through that. And then once you get in there, normally, sometimes the Recording Academy will reach out to you depending on what lane you're in, what business you're in, and they'll say, "Hey, would you like to mentor a college student that's actually trying to get into the industry, whether
Mm.
it's on the publishing side, whether it's on the record label side, whether it's on anything that has to do with curating in the entertainment and music." And so, this every semester you would get an actual college student that's in the music business that
Mhm.
wants to come and be mentored and see what goes on in the back end of your company. And so, as a matter of fact, I just met a beautiful young lady who's coming on as a new mentee of mine from the University of Miami in the same degree that I did when I was in college.
Wonderful.
And so she spends a couple hours with my team and I a week to learn more about what it is to be on this side and to also give her an opportunity to see different careers because not everybody works for a record label. Not everybody does publishing. There's so
Mhm.
many other careers in the music and entertainment industry.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, as a voting member, we have an opportunity to have a say in certain things like stipulations and laws, right?
Mhm.
How things are done. And
Mhm.
that's an uphill battle with certain things,
I'm
right?
sure. I'm sure.
Making our voices heard, and we need more minorities. We
Yeah.
need more minorities as voting members because that's the issue
Yeah.
right now.
Okay. So let's just address the elephant in the room, right? Because Grammy season has just passed, and
Yeah,
everyone just knew that Beyonce was a sure win for Album of the Year. What
yeah,
happened? What can you explain
yeah.
to us? What happened?
So, uh, okay. So I'm going to give the politically correct answer just
Let's
because we
go.
are on here. So
Absolutely.
it's not about Beyonce.
Okay.
It's about the culture of the Academy.
Mm.
It's more than Beyonce. Beyonce alone is not the Recording Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? It's just like the Oscars,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we all felt like Auntie was slighted.
Um,
You
um,
understand?
Absolutely, Angela Bassett. Yes, Auntie
But
Angela.
on this, hear me out, on this Women's History Month, or last year on this Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
everything couldn't be blackety black black.
I understand.
You
Understand.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even if we know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about that. It's about the underlying tone
Mm-hmm.
of deeper rooted things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? And
Mm-hmm.
so if that had happened, it would completely go against whatever the foundation of the academy was built on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so on the Black History Month, it wouldn't have happened because we had already done it with an EGOT. We
Mhm.
already done it with the Viola Davis. We
Mhm.
already did it in some areas. You understand what I'm saying?
I
You
do.
think about it, we had already done the whole 50-year hip hop anniversary.
Uh-huh.
So it was blackety black
Black,
all the way
black, black.
through. So on that Black History Month, no,
Mhm.
no, no, especially for that record, guys, yeah, I know it's going to be an uproar,
Mhm.
but we got to make sure we don't rock the boat.
Understandable. Completely. Enough
Okay.
said.
All right.
Enough said. Now let's get into some of this fun stuff, right? So, you are also the founder and CEO of Elite Voice Optimization. It's called Mahi, the Music and Arts Healing Institute, and Vocal Wall Street. You spoke to that earlier. What are some of the services that you offer, and who are some of the clients that you have serviced in the past?
Yeah, so believe it or not, so my company has pivoted from the Music and Arts Healing Institute to Vocal Wall Street.
Oh, okay.
And so because I do have a lot of supporters and people that know the Mahi, we've kind of kept the name and have done a slow pivot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really now Vocal Wall Street at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you, I want to say that as a CEO, because lots of times, especially for people that are creative entrepreneurs out here, a lot of times we are afraid to pivot
Mm-hmm.
and we feel like it has to be perfect. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. You can pivot and you can nurture your supporters to understand the pivot. Sometimes people want to go along in the journey with you, right? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes as you are called to hire, you have to pivot that way. So just wanted to say that really quickly. But absolutely. So we right now, Vocal Wall Street caters in 5 tiers. We have voice confidence and stage presence because we have a lot of people that deal with severe vocal anxiety, whether you are a speaker in front of the camera, especially in front of the camera, people that want to do public speaking, people that want to do things like that. So we deal with helping you overcome stage fright, performance anxiety, and nerves. And you'll find that a lot of people that deal with performance anxiety deal with anxiety since their childhood. So we
Mm-hmm.
go back to childhood trauma. So the mental health component always comes back into that. The second tier of what we provide is also vocal health and anatomy. So that's where we educate you on your apparatus, your mechanism of understanding what happens inside of you and why it's important for you to manage it. Because if you don't know the value of it, you will mismanage it. So we
Mm-hmm.
always teach from the inside out so that it has a better understanding and comprehension of how to take care of it. The third level is what we call pedagogy. That's just a simple term for saying technique essentials and vocal utilization. So teaching you how to breathe correctly, diction, phrasing. If you notice, even as I speak, I'm very big on pronouncing words and very big on diction, right? Especially for people that want to do media training, that wants to learn how to do interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. We teach you how to take care of your vocal folds with proper techniques. And then the fourth tier is performance mastery. So
Mm-hmm.
when you get on that stage, making sure you're holding the microphone correctly,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you are, as you move around, you're engaging the audience, but you don't forget to include the techniques. And then the fifth one, which is my favorite, all of them are favorites, but my fifth one is voice monetization. Because what I was finding as this is the reason why I had to pivot, because a lot of people wanted to learn how to use their voice, how to speak on stages, how to sing well, how to do, broadcasting, how to do these different things, but they still didn't know how to price their voice. They still
Mm-hmm.
didn't know the value of their voice. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to allow themselves to become a brand and their voice to become a business. They didn't know how to scale their voice beyond there. And so we teach on the 6 areas of voice monetization: public speaking, edutainment, which is a combination of education and entertainment, digital real estate, taking your voice and putting it into automation and systems to where people all over the globe can get access to you and you be the thought leader with your voice legacy planning, which is voice insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Every commentator needs to have it. All right. And no one really thinks about that.
No.
Um, Entertainment, which is you see the rise of motivational albums like Eric Thomas for
Mm-hmm.
athletes and other people that are now taking their voice and putting into motivational albums.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Voiceovers, voiceover acting, all of these different things. And then we have high ticket coaching, which is people now that are at a level where they want to be able to teach others how to do what they do and become the expert. And we show them how to monetize on that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a combination of these 5 tiers. And then within these 5 tiers, we have sub programs within it. And that's why it's called Vocal Wall Street.
Oh, yeah. So you guys have a plethora of offerings and services. Now let's talk about I want to know where we can, sign up for this because it sounds expensive. Okay, I'm just not gonna lie. It sounds expensive. So where can we sign up for it, or at least get some more details about how to enroll?
Absolutely. Well, let me just say this. The best is not the cheapest, and the cheapest is not the best.
We're gonna say that.
Okay. So when people ask me, when you say who's the cheapest professional out there when it comes to all things voice, my name and my picture will not be there.
Ever.
All right. But if
Right.
you want the best, you'll get the best because people pay attention when they pay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we know that cheap is expensive, right? So we want to make sure that, things ain't turning green in our ears. It's not breaking fast. And it's the same thing when it comes to value.
Yeah.
So absolutely, AshaylaShanae.live. You can go to www.AshaylaShanae.live. It lists all of my offers and my services. But I'm also have Vocal Wall Street University, which is an actual online academy for those people that want to get an experience, but they want to do it at their pace and learn the 5 tiers. Or I do have a mentorship program called Vocal Wall Street Inner Circle, where I actually teach creatives how to take their creative skills and their literal and figurative voice and pivot it to make 6 and 7 figures from it, right? That's the business side.
I love that. Definitely going to check that out. And as we bring this interview to a close, it's definitely been a pleasure speaking with you. But before we go, I need to know, and I think I might know the answer to this. As a Black woman, we carry so many superpowers, right? So if you had to consider what your superpower is, what would you say that is?
My femininity.
Okay, I like that.
And the reason why I say that is because as a woman, especially as a woman boss and a woman that has a high earning, high level business, lots of times we are in this masculine kind of energy role. And so what I'm learning is that no, I can be strong and soft. I can be assertive and still, like, I want you to know that even though, yes, I may be a female CEO, there is still femininity, and that's my superpower, right? That I can still be a leader and still be able to show aspects of me as a woman that the average male in the position would not be able to do. That's our superpower. And so I hone in to who I am as a woman, and I hone in to who I am as a woman that has been put in a situation to be a decision maker and a thought leader. So I would say that. Yeah.
I love that. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting something similar along the lines of I'm the voice whisperer or, something like that. But I like the femininity.
And I'm going to tell you why, because femininity is high income. Yes. It's the highest form of wealth. Let me tell you something. There are rooms. And let me just say this, when I say femininity, I'm not talking sensuality.
No, we understand.
Okay. I'm talking understanding who you be as a woman and understanding that if you want to elevate, then tap into it. You see what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of power there. So whether I'm the voice whisperer, I'm the mentor, I'm the coach, I'm the leader, I lead not just with vulnerability and transparency and honesty and integrity, but I lead in my femininity as well.
Beautifully said. And last question, because we can sit here all day and talk to you about everything. But last question. So as this is Women's History Month, as a Black woman, who would you like to thank for her contributions to history and society, and why?
Oh, that's a spicy question. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble because I owe so much to my godmom, Betty Wright. She was the first female mentor that showed me what it was to be a female CEO. She was the first Black woman in her area to run her own record label, become gold on it, and hit millionaire status, right? She was not just only the godmother of Miami Soul, but she literally was the godmother to the Lil Waynes and to the Khaled's and to all of the, the Rick Rosses. And now, being able to partner with